Hi, Tom.
Good afternoon. Just so you know, it seems we are recording already.
I know you can, I'm going to turn it off.
All
Look,
right.
where am I? Some
In your
people
home, it
aren't
looks.
finding the link.
It's on the
Hold on.
website.
Here we go. All righty. So let's do roll call. Lynette is here. Tom is here. Meg is here. And we're missing Jim Quisenberry, Jeff Bartell, Trish Bartell, and Jim Hale. I don't have any announcements per se, but we have a lot to talk about. So we may have something that comes out of that conversation. I don't see anybody from the public here. John, do you have something you want to bring up that's not on the agenda?
The only thing I could think of is I still think it might be a neat idea to try to get a photo, like an aerial photo of the Los Osos Valley Road project site during the Christmas parade or after the Christmas parade, so that you could get people to maybe line up along either the side of the road, the shoulder from Palisades back as far as it could go, or maybe even in the dirt or whatever, and then like fly a drone over it and just get an aerial shot, so you get a picture that shows the numerous community members out near the site, and then it just sort of captures an image that we might be able to use for future grants or future publicity.
The community center is where the parade ends, and usually people aren't on the street past that realty office and the Mexican restaurant. Usually there's nobody further down than that, people wise.
Yeah, it would take coordination. It's probably too late already for this year, but the thought was originally maybe this school from either of the schools, the school kids could go out and do it at some point, but it just seemed that the parade, even though it's not quite on that spot, that maybe, and traffic goes through there too, right? So they have flag people who stop and then redirect traffic there. So it would be a little tricky, but maybe it could be figured out if it was so desired.
Something to think about. Okay, that's a really good idea that I'm going to give some thought of how we can make that happen.
I think that, oh, sorry, I should have raised my hand.
All right, go ahead.
I think it's a great idea. And if there was some way to coordinate with the schools and say at this particular time when the parade's over, if we could all in support of this, you're talking about the multi-use path, right, John?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So to say, in support of the multi-use path, we want to get together and, show a sign of support by standing and in a line and showing that you are in support of this project. And if it was at a particular time, if everybody just met there, and it wouldn't take but a few minutes, I would imagine.
Just a seed, just floating that one out there, public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I'm, who runs the parade?
The chamber.
Oh, well, we have a chamber person here.
Well, not for too much longer, I don't think. I'm terming out.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, you better hurry up.
Suppose I should join the chamber then, eh?
You could. We're looking for people. You'd be welcomed.
Stanfield's been bugging me to join that, join. for a
Yeah,
while.
okay, now I'm bugging you too.
Oh, boy.
So one of the things about that location that I've been thinking about, and I don't know, John, if you have any input on this, on the south side of Los Osos Valley Road, there's a very generous space for a bike path that actually never gets used for a bike path because people park their cars there. And at that location at Doris and Los Osos Valley Road, where we're being told on the north side, there's no way to put a path there because the homes are too close to the street and there's no room, which we can see that there is no room there. It occurs to me that if we had that big giant space, which I'm guessing is about at least 10 feet wide, if some of that was on the other side and 10 feet on the north side and a normal bike path on the south side, that we would be able to accomplish connecting all the way to Doris. Does that make any sense to you?
Mhm.
Because that's really been the one sticking point for completing that connection between Palisades and Doris is the 3 homes that are right there on the corner of Doris and Los Osos Valley Road.
Yeah, so you're looking at a south side alignment for that?
Yes. So it would mean changing the lines on the road and taking that wide bike path. Cars aren't supposed to park there. There's a sign, it says no parking 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., but cars are parked there all the time. And trash cans are there now because it's trash day. But if they realigned it and just moved some of that space to the other side and created a 10-foot bike path there, it would allow enough space, I think, for people to get to the school. Anyway, I haven't launched this idea at Public Works yet, but it's one of the things that I've been considering as a way to get out of our that pinch point there. People won't like it because they won't be able to park their cars on the other side then. But anyway, we have to have our priorities, right?
Mhm.
That was part of what came up in the forum is, creating the priorities. So let's go back and start with our agenda items, which is the field trip. We had this amazing field trip. We walked the whole property from Los Osos Valley Road all the way down to Ramona. We learned a lot about that property. It's quite large. It's over 100 acres, apparently. That's what I was told. I don't know exactly, but and we pulled up the map and we found out who, we didn't find out the name of the owner, but we did find out there's a property owner for the large parcel, and that large parcel goes all the way to Ramona and would allow us to make that connection to between Los Osos Valley Road. And so I wrote a letter to whom it may concern. And thank you, Lynette, for helping me out with getting, doing some sleuthing on that. So I did send a letter to the property owner. I haven't gotten an answer back, but it hasn't been that long really. So we'll see. What I did is I talked to Sean Cooper at Parks and Rec, because this would be a Parks and Rec trail. And it exists already in their Parks and Rec future plan that there would be a trail there. So he and I had a conversation about how to push that forward. And he said, the best thing is to work with the property owner because they will want to have a say on the alignment of that trail. And if we can get them on board early, obviously they're not developing it yet, but that doesn't mean that they can't indicate, well, we would want you to build the trail here. And then that would sort of get us one step further down the road. So that's why I'm taking this approach, reaching out to the property owner, letting them know that there is a trail planned to go through that property and that we want to work with them and coordinate where that trail alignment would be. So hopefully we'll get an answer back and we'll be able to start work on really nailing down a location for that trail, bike pedestrian trail, which would connect Los Osos Valley Road to Ramona. And then then that gets us really close to downtown.
Mhm.
Any comments about that?
I like it.
Just that I'm really excited.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It is exciting. And so many people want this. One of the things I know we've talked about at last meeting was perhaps coming off of Palisades and making that connection, because it would be a much shorter trail that we would have to create.
Mhm.
So, let's see what the property owner has to say, and, that will give us some direction on that.
Not just shorter, but it has the infrastructure, the community infrastructure there already with the center and the library.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it doesn't have any sidewalks.
Well, hopefully part of the project is putting sidewalks in.
So that's that. So let's go on to the next item, and I'm so glad that John is here, because he's going to be able to chime in on some of this stuff that went on at the LOCAC forum. And cool thing, it was based on this safe system approach, which this committee has already looked at. The wheel, policies, planning, safety data at the top of the wheel here, safe speeds, safe street designs, how people use the roads, post-crash response, and capacity strengthening. And we went all the way around this wheel. And so I'm going to share with you notes that actually Jeff Krebs did. He's so good at that. Hold on a second. I'm going to share that because I pulled out some nuggets from him, and here it is. I'm just going to go through it. And then John, feel free to jump in wherever, because these are just notes that Jeff made. And then I just pulled out the parts that I thought would be good to talk about tonight. So there was a lot of conversation around data, and data is really important because data is what kind of moves things forward in terms of funding. So my understanding is that a lot of what, how can I say this? If you want to make a change in a road, then if you have injuries, especially if you have fatalities, that's kind of the thing that makes the difference, which is sad to say, but they do track these things. And so SLO County had 46 pedestrian deaths between 2010 and 2021. And 12.5% of all collisions were fatalities. That number is increasing. And what was so interesting is that during COVID, it actually went up, which is so counterintuitive, at least it was to me. So pedestrian fatalities, 45, serious injury, 120, bike fatalities, 20, serious injuries, 120, approximately 16 average annual combined pedestrian, and approximately 14 average annual combined bike injuries. So, and then SLOCOG Transportation Safety Partnership Program was established to support member agencies to secure capital grant funds for safety projects based on collisions or Vision Zero, which essentially is, we don't want any injuries. We don't want any fatalities. So, so that's a really cool goal to have, is like, it's not acceptable to have any. And then John, do you want to add something to any of that?
Yeah, I think that this is a really, it's really neat to see a participant's notes from, from kind of a evening event. I think it's maybe worth just taking just a quick step kind of back out, because really what we were trying to do, and in some part inspired by this community's interest in safety and discussions that you had with UC Berkeley about some of their safety programs, was to sort of put other community advisory councils delegates kind of all in one room. So it was an opportunity for for 2 members from LOCAC to be in a room with 2 members from Templeton, 2 members from Avila, 2 from City of Morro Bay, so 2 city council members, or planning commission. So and Pismo sent 2 people, and so these are all kind of like safety champion type folks, or like we labeled them, or encouraged them at the end of this to consider themselves to be safety champions for their community. And really that wheel that was shown earlier, that safe systems approach, is aimed by the federal government and the state government all have current safety plans. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to catch the region up to recognizing that safe systems approach, that wheel. And what that means is that there's other divisions. So we're SLOCOG in the business of working with civil engineers and planning and funding improvements, and working with regional transit. But it was a chance for us to hear from the police and CHP and SLO PD. And it was also a chance for us to talk and really get to know better SLO County's behavioral health and some programs that exist in the county that are not run by Public Works, or not run by Caltrans, or not run by like the rideshare program, but capitalize on the federal Office of Traffic Safety grants. And actually we get to our region probably close to $1 million a year if you add up the amount of money that Templeton Police and Paso Police and the county behavioral health, etc., just to kind of curb vehicular trauma. And so for me, the numbers that I guess are not, oh yeah, they are the post-cash response right here at the Sierra Vista. So meeting kind of for the first time the manager of Sierra Vista's trauma unit, and then hearing them say that during the pandemic, there was a switch from other categories of trauma to vehicular trauma, and that the ambulance is now, it kind of died off, bad choice of words, but it slowed down at the start of COVID when everyone was home, but then vehicular trauma has been on a sharp rise, right? And so anecdotally, we'll hear people saying when they're driving up to the Bay Area or driving to LA, noticing that during COVID, the roads were a lot kind of crazier. So slights were becoming severe, severes were becoming fatal. There was increase of reckless and distracted driving, increase in, I don't know, social anxiety or whatever. I mean, other areas, other data points are also pointing to a situation that is getting worse. And so one thing that we don't have in our region is a regional Vision Zero or a regional zero safety policy. So our county doesn't have one. The city of SLO is the only city that has a zero deaths policy, like zero, and it has a goal that's zero by 2045 or zero by 2050 or something like that. And so I really, honestly, some of the, like my personal inspiration for this actually came from interviewing some people out in this community out in Los Osos that were part of the, I guess, the unhoused and the vehicular homeless community that was here, or that is here. And as I was interviewing them, I was trying to explain what a transportation, like I'm not a cop, I'm a transportation planner, and how our goal with traffic safety is to get to zero traffic deaths in the same way that the county now has a plan and a goal, a region-wide one, to address homelessness. And I know that's a big topic in this community and has been.
Mhm.
But if you think of the plan that they've put together in maybe 4 months, they did that, you know, and I know there's a lot to it. It wasn't just 4 months, it was 10 years plus 4 months. There's a lot there, but we do not currently have a regional safety action plan that would include the county. They do have safety studies on a variety of corridors, and then we work very closely with Public Works about that. But in terms of something that's looking more holistic and then also including the cities, and that's something that LOCAC can do. So we work with the county and with the cities. And the reason to do that, I guess lastly, is because eventually our population will increase. It's a slow increase, and not just the community of Los Osos, which is probably flat, you know, like, you know, parts of Morro Bay probably won't grow either, but as a region, we will, certainly in Paso and City of SLO and others. And so by 2045, you know, our population will be markedly, or, you know, or will be a next step. There will be more people here.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the basis for undertaking the a regional safety workshop. And really, Deborah Howe, I just can't thank you enough early on for helping us with some of the conversations with Berkeley's UC Safe Trek program, which houses the warehouse for these kinds of crash statistics that I know that Jeff Krebs is interested in digging
Yeah.
into more in a technical way.
Cool. Well, since you are bringing up the Regional Safety Action Plan, of which we looked at an example, the Fresno Council of Governments came and showed us their plan. I remember you saying, and I hope I'm remembering correctly, that having a plan, a regional safety plan, actually will speed up the process of getting funding.
Well, so it gives us access to the federal bill, so, or the IIJA, or I'm not supposed to use acronyms, right? But it's the federal bipartisan infrastructure legislation, which is what the Biden administration passed the end of last fall,
Mhm.
and is now that big federal infrastructure package. And, you know, we're, as in the transportation industry, trying to figure out, you know, what that means for our bridge program, what that means for our highway paving programs, and, you know, keeping infrastructure moving. But then they also have a really big carve out for safety. And so there there is a pathway for federal money, to make its way back to communities like Los Osos through federal style planning. Like
And
a year
having
from,
this
yeah.
regional safety plan is one of the things that will support our grant.
Well, yeah. So it's yeah, the more programs that you're able to leverage, the more successful the funding for, right, a project would be. So rather than like putting all the eggs in the basket of, say, the state active transportation program
Mhm.
for a trail project, if there are pieces of the trail that could, or that project or other projects like it, that can come out of safety, safety programming, and not just the federal safety programming, but state safety programming or LOCAC's competitive programming. So for example, the Los Osos Valley Road Trail competed recently, right, and got the money to do a corridor study, which will be used to kind of delineate the components that then would then be able to compete for construction, or design and construction,
Right.
assuming the right of ways there.
So this, welcome Dave and Bev. I'm glad you guys checked in. So what we're looking at here is studying safety, the components of safety. And so I think we're now at the post-crash response, talking about collecting the data. Sierra Vista collects the data, the CHP has data, and what I found most interesting, and it's number 3 under post-crash response, is the most challenging reporting is for bike and pedestrian collisions, because many of them choose not to report. And this is really interesting because I know for a fact there have been accidents that CHP has reported on here in Los Osos, and the accidents were reported as, oh, a pedestrian got hit, but it was just bumps and scrapes and there was nothing to it. And then that person actually ended up going to the hospital with a brain bleed. But the CHP never knew that. So, and sometimes people get hurt and they just don't want to take the time to have it reported. Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. But see, not having all of the information, all of the collisions, actually makes these numbers much less than they probably really are. The actual numbers are probably much greater, is really my point. And then what we already mentioned, that during COVID, crashes and collisions, and we were told we don't call these things accidents. We don't believe that they're accidents. Because the accident is a thing that you can't, it just happens. These things don't just happen. They're crashes and collisions, and they can be prevented. And that is the whole basis for the Vision Zero, where there are no accidents. So moving up to safe speeds, this is a biggie, right? How to slow down streets. Well, we can depend on driver behavior, that they choose to drive at a speed appropriate. But what's so clear is that people drive the speed that they feel comfortable in the situation. And many times the situation is telling them, you can drive at a very fast speed, and that may not be the best speed for that situation. And I'm going to give you an example, and this is one that we've talked about a little bit. When you come into Los Osos, on Los Osos Valley Road from San Luis Obispo, it's 2 lanes, and then it widens out to 4 lanes with a middle turn lane. And it does that right exactly where, right before the 3 senior mobile home parks are. And so the seniors are coming to me and they're saying, we can't get out of our mobile home park safely because it's like a freeway. Cars are still going 55 miles an hour. And there's, 4 lanes of traffic plus a turn lane. And, we have limited, hearing, limited vision, limited mobility. And so it's become a real safety issue. One which I'm bringing up to Public Works, and we'll see how far I can push this up the food chain there. But, it's an example of why wouldn't people keep driving fast, 55 miles an hour? Because it's wide open road. So the goodwill thing doesn't really work. There's talk about automakers having governors in these new cars where in a certain speed area that it would automatically not allow you to go faster than the speed. Okay, how many think that'll be popular? Nobody. And then the perspective of, somebody pointed out, if you're in a car and you're going into a parking lot, you feel, totally protected in your car. The minute you park your car and you get out, all of a sudden you're very vulnerable. So there's a mindset that changes. Once you get inside that car and you've got that comfort of being inside the car, your behavior really changes. And let's face it, cars are much better at protecting people now. So moving on to road design, the width of the lanes.
Oh, Deborah,
Yeah.
I
go ahead.
remembered just, and I don't know if Jeff's notes will get to it, but one of the takeaways that I heard that I hadn't before was the FedEx trucks with
Oh, yeah.
speed.
Yeah.
So like they have GPS in their trucks now, and drivers are being pressured to maintain the posted speed limits of the road that they're on. So even if there's a 45 speed limit around the blind corner somewhere, drivers are being pressured to maintain the speeds on the roads because they know that they're being tracked down to the like the segment, like by the mile or by the half mile that and I don't know, was it you or Jeff that like talked to somebody and like
He did.
stop somebody?
He did. In fact, this is a shortened version of his notes. I will send you his complete notes. And he did have that in there. And because he was like, really? Does that really? And he actually talked to a UPS guy and they said, oh yeah, we're actually incentivized to go faster and get our route done faster than what we should be able to, going exactly the speed limit on every turn. So yeah, they're completely tracked of what they're doing. So yeah, interesting, right? So designing the road, and this is what we want here in Los Osos. We want roads that are designed appropriate for the use of the road. And then using, the edging, what do they call those things, John? The rumble strips?
Yes, yep, rumble strips, either center line rumble strips or the fog line.
Right. So things like that. And then we actually got to meet 2 Cal Poly professors. Both of them were amazing and brilliant. I only put in this one, Dr. Dave Amos. He has a YouTube channel called City Beautiful, where he talks about city planning and planning issues. And he also, I think he has an ebook. So I'm going to try to check out that ebook. And then I'm just going to scroll down here because I think it would be really interesting. And I believe Jeff actually has this in here. Yeah, he does. So LOCAC is seeking a grant funding to prepare a regional transportation plan. Is that true?
Yes, we've submitted that to the feds.
Oh, so it goes to the feds. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it's federal. Yeah.
And then you think it will take about a year?
I think we'll hear about it in the next, by November, and then we wouldn't be able to start it until next fiscal year. So what, July 1st? And then
Okay.
we wouldn't be underway probably until August or September of next year.
And how long would it take?
Probably a year.
So it would take a year.
Yeah, yeah, it's it's government. I mean, it takes takes time for the money to make its way to us. And then in order for us to be thorough with public engagements, it's probably a year.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, and I guess I would say too, if with the county's plan, and I don't know how closely they listen to these workshops on YouTube, but you know, your committee has the ability to just keep on the gas for them to hire, you know, put an RFP out, get some, you know, get consultants selected, get your plan going, because you do want to try to hit the following year's active transportation cycle. And if the corridor plan's not done by then, you will have less, you know, even if it's not complete, but that's okay. But as long as the majority of the public engagement for that plan is done, then, but I mean, there's nothing like a signed plan that really adds to the legitimacy of a state grant. So.
Right. So the cycle starts when? In 2023?
Yeah, it starts again. Yeah, it wouldn't start again. Actually, it's probably 24.
Okay.
So it's every 2 years.
Okay. Right. So
So you have a year to do your plan, basically,
our active transportation plan.
your corridor plan.
Oh,
Yeah, for Los
right.
Osos Valley Road.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
from January 1st, 23. If it takes a year, that's fine, because then you'll need it to hit in 24.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, and I asked Josh how long it was going to take, and he said a year, so we should be good. I'm assuming they've started, but I can't really make that assumption, can I? So these are Jeff's notes, that we should consider contacting Safe Track about doing a workshop for Los Osos in their next funding cycle and get our name on the list now. I think that's a terrific idea. That Los Osos should pursue an understanding the practicalities of using systemic process to correlate crash data. I'm not exactly sure what he means by that, but definitely we know that data, excuse me, data is an important part of supporting our plan.
Yeah, so he's starting to talk about predictive analysis. So it's right that it's not so much, it's not just identifying where collision trends are, collision hotspots are, but trying to identify where they would be and prevent them before they happen.
Exactly. And then we should invite one or more of the Cal Poly professors to come to one of our meetings or participate in some way. And I have actually reached out to first name Luke, his last name's escaping me, who was involved with the active transportation plan for the city of San Luis.
Luke Schwartz.
Luke Schwartz, thank you. And yeah, and he's indicated that he's available to answer questions. Because we can make our own active transportation plan. Or-
Did you ever have any traction from that Cal Poly student? There was a student who was just starting in the city and regional.
Yeah, we did
planning.
have a meeting with her and she indicated that she, could write some stuff up, but we needed to provide her with some information. And that just never happened. So really the ball's in our court. The ball's in our court
Got it. No problem.
on that. So, so that's kind of a wrap on the safety forum. It was 2 days. It was very intense. It was really super informative. I'm so grateful to LOCAC for putting this on. And does anybody have any questions or comments they want to make?
Me,
Okay, me.
I just had one question. Does French Hospital also collect that kind of data? Or is it just Sierra Vista?
I think it's Sierra Vista because they're the trauma center.
Okay, so it's only from trauma centers. Okay, and then the other question was, does any other county like Santa Barbara County have a plan that we could kind of riff off of so we're not having to invent the wheel?
Are you
Or
talking
are
about
there-
active transportation plan?
Well, no, I was actually thinking about the regional safety action plan. Is that something that there's like a template, you just plug in your stuff? Or do you have to invent the whole wheel on that?
That's a question for John.
Oh, yeah, part of the reason that we brought Fresno, a speaker from Fresno over was because they've been through the process already. So the Fresno Council of Governments did a regional safety plan for Fresno County. Their numbers are a lot different than ours, meaning they have some pretty hard times over there with traffic safety. And not saying we don't here, but just like per 100,000 population, it's different there. So no, we're looking at best practices and really learning more about regional safety planning and what we can do. And the first step all across the way was just to find safety champions from each community and bring them together and just walk that wheel, the safety wheel, get accustomed to some of the terms. And then, just like Jeff is doing or Deborah's doing with, digging a little bit more and taking steps for your community. And, mainly if one of the key takeaways too from this is just when you do have your LOCAC meetings and the sheriff's department comes and gives the quarterly report on traffic, just to know that the burden just doesn't all fall on them, right? That the police or the CHP who are who are stopping the drunk drivers or at the site when a collision happens, like Cal Fire will show up, or the slow ambulance, and helping people or dealing with the tragedy, that they're definitely the front line and bearing the brunt of it, but that everybody has a responsibility, including the driver, but also the engineers, and also the behavioral programs, and even the high school training, what was once Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and now Friday Night Live does
Right,
a lot
right.
of training, really interesting training just for preventative and campaigns like don't drive distracted, and it's very simple. But yeah, so if all those things are working and improving, and if we have plans for working together and improve them, then we could, in theory, get to the policy goal of 0 fatalities, 0 severe injury collisions. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we can get some cars off the road too. That would be nice. That helps.
Yeah, and it was really interesting, the part about safe speeds and just hearing from, you know, like a nationwide professional of just how important driving slower can be. And you get there, you get there just the same usually, if you're just driving slower. And my wife got an electric car and she drives slower because she wants to save the energy. So yeah, saves on speeding tickets too.
So any other comments that or questions that we have about the safety forum and how we can maximize the information that we got there to understand how to move our own situation forward here in Los Osos? Connecting the dots is kind of what I'm trying to do, and then using some leverage with county employees to get them invested in also connecting the dots. So, I feel like we have a good partner with Sean Cooper at Parks and Rec. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. County Public Works is still a work in progress. This kind of brings me to our last and final agenda item. I saw both John Waddell and Josh Roberts at the forum, and I told them, I said, I'm giving you a heads up. I'm sending you an email. I'm requesting that one or both of you attend our next meeting, which will be November 19th, because it will be a traffic and circulation meeting. And I want to address some safety issues in Los Osos. And they just kind of nodded their head. And then I did in fact send the email, and then they both sent back an email saying, yeah, no, we don't want to come.
Oh,
But I don't take no for an answer. So I've actually had Josh reach out to me since then. He goes, oh, hey, I want to talk to you about something. When can I call you? So they may or may not show up. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to come or not. We're still going to have the meeting. We're still going to talk about the issues, one of which is the senior citizens that are, having a problem getting out safely onto Los Osos Valley Road. The other is looking at the intersection of Ramona and 4th Street, because that is where our trail will come into. And that intersection, which is a 3-way intersection, is supposed to be improved. It's on the county plan, capital improvement project, to do something about that corner. And what we want to know is, well, what is it you want to do? Are you going to put in a roundabout? Are you going to do something else, so that we can understand how to work with that when we start talking about the trail? So really sort of coordinating that and getting an idea of where they think they're going to go with making the corrections with that trail. And then right back to Los Osos Valley Road with our issue needing safe biking and pedestrian access between the community center and the elementary school. So that's still our number one priority. So that's going to come up in next month's meeting at Traffic and Circulation. It's on the 19th, I believe. And hopefully somebody will be there. And maybe it might be a new hire, because they keep telling me they're going to hire some more staff people, that they're short about 2 or 3 people. And so if they do hire somebody, then chances are it's going to be a new person. But that's okay, because we'll start a new relationship and we'll work with them. Any questions, comments, concerns?
It was a good meeting.
Yeah, it was a good meeting. We didn't have any big items, but it was really informative.
Yeah, very informative. Thank you, Deborah.
It's Dave and Bev again. We lost you for a minute, Dave and Bev. Sorry. Are you there? Okay, maybe you can't hear us. But anyway, so we're about ready to close up here this evening. If there was any final question or something that you wanted to say, now would be the time to say it.
I'll just say that Dave and Bev are having trouble with our Zooming tonight, so that's why
Okay.
we've been off and on. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me know. I just know that John D'Annunzio is really, really in our corner. He really is trying to, help us as best he can. And so when he suggests taking the picture, I mean, we may not be able to do that picture, but we could do something similar that would create that same impact. So let's think about how we could do that. The Los Osos Valley Road project is, it's an important one. And the more we can use visual things, I think it's going to be, John is convinced that if we do a marketing piece, like a fold out brochure, a trifold brochure that we could hand to supervisors or people, staff and things like that, that we can sell this as a really important thing that they need to do.
Mhm.
And I have to believe that he knows what he's talking about. So if that can happen, and at the same time, they're doing the corridor study, they have to input that information into the corridor study. It has to go in because Josh told me, he said, oh, we'll do public outreach. We'll do public outreach. Yeah, well, guess what? We're going to be, making sure that we get our comments in. Go ahead, Meg.
So I was just thinking back on all the surveys that we did. Is that all consolidated now and ready to, present if need be?
Yes, and I was thinking that we could even do a bigger survey by reaching out to the water purveyors.
Right, you had
Them to
mentioned
put
that
it in
previously.
there.
Right.
And so I talked to CSD and they didn't seem to think that was a problem. I haven't talked to Golden State. So
I apologize. I forgot to ask you S&T, but we're having a meeting next week and I'll bring it up.
yeah, that'd be great. And I'm supposed to meet with Beth Reinke. Is that-
Reineke? Mhm.
Reinke. I think next week we're going to schedule a meeting to get together. And so
Okay.
I'll try to remember to mention that to her. So a really even larger survey, I think, would just give us that much more ammunition. So,
Right.
so we're kind of working on that. Okay, anything else before we close down? Great. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Dave and Bev, for coming. And yeah, November 19th, traffic and circulation. We won't be talking about active transportation as much. We're definitely going to be talking about traffic circulation, specific road issues. Okay.
Right on.
Thanks, Deborah.
If you have
Thank
something,
you.
email it to me so I know, and I'll put it on the agenda. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.